Well, I want to welcome everybody. I'm Don Schaefer, and this is session 6 of the Project Manager Workshop. And we're really excited about this because a lot of things have been happening. You know, we've been going through a series of sessions now, all the way to session 6, and we've learned a few things. We started off in session 1 talking about success and talking about the fact that, you know, you need to define success for you because somebody else's success is not necessarily your success. And then we talked a little bit about making a decision. We talked about making a decision. And by this time, I'm hoping that you guys have defined your success, have made your decision. Then we talked about making compelling goals, setting yourself up with some compelling goals, and stop wasting your time. And the fact that we allow time to go by, and a lot of times we don't establish ourselves. We don't get ourselves into a place where we can really say, you know, this is what I'm going after, and this is what I want. And these are the goals, and the goal actually is the target. It's what we aim for. It's the direction that we're looking at. It is the target that we're trying to seek. And it should be compelling. It should be something in your life that's compelling you to move forward. And a lot of times what we have in life is not compelling goals, not a compelling life. You know, we're just going through life, not really achieving what we could and should, all this sort of thing. But then we got into talking a little bit about your thought process. Direct your thoughts, direct your life. Talked about the fact it's all about how you think. And to achieve your goals, you need to get your mind where it needs to be. You need to think the right things. We talked about the fact that your belief system. Fact is, when you're from young on, you're taught to believe certain things, and a lot of people are taught to fail. You know, because just the culture they're living in. Because if mom and dad talk failure to you, you're going to think failure. And you're not going to believe in yourself. Mom and dad talk success and the possibilities, you're going to think these things. We talked about the fact that if you're going after a goal and trying to achieve something, sometimes you can become your own worst enemy by the conversations you carry on with yourself. You know, what you say to yourself in doubt, what you say to yourself and saying, I can't do this. This is not possible. All these types of things. You know, these are all possible. And last week we talked a little bit about creating a positive image in your mind, getting the picture. You know, and then throughout all this, I look at people and I say to myself, you know, a lot of these people have went through a lot of things, and how important it is for people to have a dream and to be able to grab a hold of that dream and structure something that can allow that dream come to pass. Because every one of us was designed with great purpose in mind. Our Creator has designed us and built us to be successful. Because I used to have in my office a long time ago a little tiny poster, and it showed a young child, and on top of it it said, God doesn't make junk. You know, and that's where a lot of times people, I think, live life thinking that they are a piece of junk. But it isn't true. God has created everyone with a great purpose in mind. And that's where it's up to us to line ourselves up, to allow the changes to happen within us. And that's where I'm hoping in these weeks that we've spent together, that you've allowed change to happen, that maybe you're seeing things in a different way. Maybe it's stirred you in a different way, because we've used examples. We talked about Colonel Sanders, who at age 65 used his first Social Security check, which was $90, and used it to peddle his recipe, and how he went to thousands of places until someone said, yeah, we will sell your chicken, and where that is today. And then you look at Sam Walton. He had a dream of a variety store, and he believed that, you know, you could open up a store with a variety of things, and you can get bring bulk in and get it cheaper, and sell it to the people cheaper. His first 2 stores went bankrupt. He went bankrupt twice in his stores, but his dream was big enough. His dream was big enough that he found a way to make it happen. Where's Sam Walton? Well, Sam Walton isn't with us anymore, but where are his stores today? Every time I walk through these stores, like the Walmarts and the Sam's Clubs and stuff, I look at all these employees. I look at all the stuff that's going through. And I remember going into Walmart one time and talking to a lady at the cash register, and she was saying something like $43,000 a minute are going through Walmart stores. And I believe that's right. And she's saying it's just amazing how much Walmart sells. You know, we go to Hawaii. You know, we go to Hawaii, you know, and we're going there, and we're going looking at all these different places and stuff, and you know, everything's kind of new to us. And then we run across a Walmart store. You know, it was just like being at home. We went into a Walmart store. You know, it's amazing. These Walmart stores are all over the place. But it was one man's dream. It was one man dream, and they have a hard time stopping this. Why? Because he had the right concept. You know, Walt Disney, talked about him a little bit last week. You know, he had a vision and a mouse. He had a vision and a mouse. He went around with his mouse to places trying to get financing too. He had to persuade people to buy into what he was doing, and how he took and built his one castle, got all the people around so they could see this, and then he showed them what could be developed around that. See, it's the same principles that work in our lives. You know, everybody's different. Everybody has their own dream, their own idea, but we have to give it life. We have to stir it on. And that's where tonight we're going to be looking at, you know, ways to be keyed up and persistent. See, what I'm hoping to give you is some tools to work with. If you stuck with me, you know, through the past 5 weeks, you know, and have really applied yourself, you should be seeing changes happening. You should be seeing something developing of whatever you're going after, because that's what happens. It's just the way things work. And there's such a, how would you say, your Creator is sitting back waiting for us to step out in the areas that we've been created for. So we're constantly getting dreams, constantly getting ideas and areas that we can go after, but it's up to us to put the structure around it to allow these things to happen. So tonight, we're going to talk about, in session 6 here, keyed up and persistent, choosing a high energy lifestyle. Okay, so it's one thing to have be talking to yourself right, saying the right things. Another thing to have the right picture to be able to envision what you're going after. But there's another part to this. It takes some energy. It takes something that's, you know, if you go to this, knock on this guy's door and he says, no way, I don't want your chicken. That you go to another door and you knock on that door, 65 years of age, and continue knocking until somebody says, you know what, I'm going to try your chicken. See, this stuff takes energy. It takes something happening in your life. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. Scripture I pulled out here says, and whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. That takes energy, man. But you know, that's right out of the good book, that we're supposed to go the extra mile. And that's where a lot of times in our dreams and goals, you know, we have a hard time making it to the half-mile mark, much less going the extra mile, you know. And unless we can go the extra mile, we probably aren't going to see what we want to have happen in our lives, because there's an extra mile. Just when we think we make it, you know, all of a sudden there's another mile. But this is the way successful people look at it. They realize that the race is never over. It's called the human race. And the race is never over. You know, when they think they've reached the finish line, there really isn't a finish line. You know when the finish line is when it's all over. It's when the ball game is over. And as long as we're breathing and walking, the ball game is still alive. You know, and it doesn't matter where we are. You know, and I look at this and I try to put it in perspective, and I look at, you know, at periods of time in a person's life. When you're young, different types of goals, different types of dreams, different types of ideas. You know, you work these things. You establish what you're going after. You reach another period of life, different types of goals, different types of dreams, different types of ideas. You work on this. And that's where when you reach in later times in life, it's the same thing. Myself, you know, we talked about the fact that we are going to wear out, not rest out. And a lot of times, later times in life, there should be a plan. Because I remember Jacques Cousteau, and I think we've talked about this in previous classes I've had, but we talked about the fact that he was flying one day and there was a reporter sitting next to him and asking him about all of the stuff and the things that were going on. And I believe he was 89 years old, I'm not positive, but he was sitting down there and he pulled out of his pocket a little planner, and he had a 10-year plan. He had a 10-year plan of what he was going to achieve in life, you know, because he wasn't stopping in life. And that's where I think the excitement, a lot of people say they are bored in life, you know. Well, it's because they really haven't developed a life. They haven't really set themselves after things and going after areas in life. What does that bring? That brings boredom. Because I even notice with my kids, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I used to have some kids that used to say, especially in summertime, that they were bored. You know, I said, you're bored. What do you mean you're bored? You know, it was only when I started putting things together and making a game out of things and setting something in front of them so that they could work on a project, they weren't bored anymore. You know, and you have to do it in a special way, but it never changes. It's like, who moved the sandbox? You know, when you were young, you played in a sandbox in one spot, but when you get older, the sandbox is just moved. It's the same way. You have to develop your own game plan and your own game, because otherwise life can be very, very boring, and for a lot of people, very, very depressing if you look at things. I know myself, I sometimes I've said this before, looking back at old pictures, I mean, it's nice, to see different things like that. But sometimes I don't like to do that because I'm sitting there looking at stuff that took place already. And I'm trying to, in my mind, saying, I wish I was back there. I don't ever want to go back there. I want to continue to go forward because there's bigger dreams and bigger goals in front of us. And that's where I want to continue to make a better picture today and tomorrow, and continue to grow that picture. But anyway, we'll move on here. I do have a quote, and it says, everything can be taken away from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances and to choose one's own way. This is by Viktor Frankl, and it's true. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I've got a little segment I'm going to read through here, trying to lay a little foundation for what we're going to discuss here. It says, your ability to persist in the face of all setbacks, temporary failures, is essential to success in life. This is an element in a person's life that needs to be developed, and once it is, the person can be a positive position to achieve greatness in whatever their life pursuits may be. Just as the primary reason for success is persistence, the primary reason for failure is lack of persistence and giving up too soon. We build our esteem every time we do what we know we should do, and there is a direct link between building our esteem and persistence. See, that's where we have to develop a persistence in our life. See, there's a lot of quitters in this world. There really is. And that's where I talk to people that a lot of times they want to give up. They'll go, I'll give it a day. I'll give it 2 days. A lot of times it takes 3 days, but you only gave it 2 days. If you give it 3 days, you'd probably learn to like it, and it probably would happen. You know what I'm talking about, Dave. That's just the way it is. And I've worked in the workforce, for a good number of years. I've seen a lot of guys that worked one day. There's a lot of them. Some areas we used to make little bets how long the people would work, because you could tell they didn't have an attitude of persistence about them. They get into it, because it really does. When you get through and push yourself through a barrier of failure or whatever it might be, it takes a persistent person to do that. And ones that can do that are the successful individuals. Everybody says, wow, look what you've all acquired. Well, you know why I acquired this, Betty? I was persistent. I didn't quit. I can't tell you how many times in life I wanted to do things and put things together and all that stuff, and it just didn't seem to be working. But you got to develop a little persistence and look at these things and say, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? Next paragraph I had here is, to be able to persist in all you do takes a boundless energy, which is not an accident. People who experience the continual flow of persistence energy make different choices than those who are deficient in this energy. By now, I'm hoping that you have chosen a high energy lifestyle, for every area of your life will be compromised by a depleted supply of energy. When you are run down, drained, and otherwise out of balance, your choice will be negatively influenced, and it will become very easy to quit on the perfect project designed just for you. See, that's where we have to learn how to develop a continual source of energy in our life. Because once we run out of energy, you know what happens? You start to look for excuses, is what you start to do. And you start to look for reasons not to do what you know you should do, because you don't have energy. But when you are powered up with energy, it doesn't matter. I'm going to continue on. I can go the extra mile. I can do the extra things I need to do. Okay, going on. There are a number of areas in our life that I'm going to address here that are important in helping you to be persistent and coupled with boundless energy. The need to decide just how old you plan to be when your journey in life is over is an important one. Our subconscious mind will work to help us each to reach the year we decide to reach. For myself, personally, I've decided to live to 120 years of life. Why not? And what this does for me at the present time is to look at my life being only half over, maybe a little over half. Okay, that keeps me in a mental state that tells me that I have time to complete anything I set out to do. See, we've talked about this time and time again. See, a lot of times people, See, your subconscious mind works 24/7. It tries to fulfill whatever you place in it. And that's where what you proclaim, you prophesy to yourself. And if you can say, I am going to be such and such an age, you will live a different type of lifestyle. You will subconsciously want to do the things you need to do to reach. That's why these individuals that say, you know what, my mama passed away at 55, my daddy passed away at 60, I am going to be a goner by the time I'm 60. I sit there and I go like this. I don't want to hear this, because they're probably going to be right. They're probably going to be right, because their body is going to try to shut itself at the age down by the age of 60, because that's what they've been telling their body to do. They're saying, hey, I'm not going to, or like we talked about before, the person says that they're going to be sick of this and sick of that all the time. I catch everything every year. I always say, I don't want to hear that, because you probably will, because you open up your body for these types of things. That's why you got to be so careful what you say, and it's the same thing with life. You can shorten your life, you can limit your life, you can do a lot of things just by the things you say. That's why if you put a plan to live such and such time, which I've had a whole class on one night, I placed 120. I say, why not? Moses in the Bible lived to be 120, and it says he was not even feeble at 120. He had all of his strengths and everything. Fact is, he chased sheep until he was 80 years old. And then he led the children of Israel out of into the promised land at 80 years old. I said, man, I got a few years to go yet, And that's where a lot of times we sell ourselves short. And as far as our dreams and our goals, we got a lot of time. If we're still alive and breathing, we've got a lot of time in front of us, a lot of time to do these things. Okay, moving on. Your attitude is the habitual way that you think, and you must determine to have a high-quality, positive attitude, for it will give you the boost you need to keep on going when times are not so good. Good attitudes are not something that are just happening to you, but something that you have chosen to have. This means that if your attitude is lacking, you can have it improved starting right now. See, that's where attitude is always an interesting thing to me, because it's all about attitude. We've talked about that before too. It is all about attitude, everything in life. I've been in the workforce, as I mentioned. Much about the people that we hire, the people that you want in your department, the people that you want to promote, is all about attitude. Sure, it takes degrees sometimes. Sometimes I say it's 98 point something degrees to get a person, they got to be alive. But they walk in the door, but after that, once they have acquired a job, it is the attitude of the individual that people look at and say, hey, you know what? I like this person because they have a positive, very powerful attitude. It's the same thing going after our goals, same thing in everything in our life. It's our attitude that gets us to where we want to go. And people with negative attitudes tend not to go very far. Because, they shoot everything down. But attitude is something that can be changed. See, you're not born with an attitude, you learn an attitude. You get an attitude about circumstances and the people you're around. You hang around with enough people with bad attitudes, you learn how to have a bad attitude. But you get yourself around individuals with positive attitudes, and it can help you develop a positive attitude and way of life. Attitude is everything, and as far as seeking after our goals and dreams, we need to develop the proper attitude. Okay, how you handle stress in your life is key to how happy and productive you will be. Uncontrolled stress is the chief cause of much illness and pain in our lives. Psychological stress has been linked to colds, chronic fatigue, headaches, depression, cancer, heart disease, just to name a few. You need to stay healthy and strong and persistently push on in your mission in life. Stress is an extreme selective condition. What makes one person stressed out will make another person excited and creative. See, stress, needs to be controlled. Certain amount of stress is good. A lot of people look for a certain amount of stress because it causes them to grow and develop and toughen up in a lot of areas. But if you don't control it, it can control you. And you got to be careful of that. Okay, next one is exercise and fitness are another area that people who want boundless energy should think about. The benefits of consistent exercise are that you can condition yourself to have the endurance to make it through the most difficult situations. When it comes time for persistence, you'll have the core strength to push your way through to areas of success in your life. That's where exercise is key, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight too. It is, your physical abilities to do. And that's for myself. I've had certain things done, surgeries and whatever, where you get yourself out of condition. takes a long time sometimes to get yourself back in condition, but you can do these things. Okay, moving on. Another area of importance is food you eat and the sleep you get. The food you eat during the day can make a huge impact on the amounts of energy you will have. A few small changes in your diet can cause major changes in your ability to go the extra mile. Taking the time to plan your meals, eating low-fat meals, eating small meals during the day, having fresh fruits and vegetables, drinking lots of water, and supplementing your diet with quality vitamins and minerals are all areas that will need your focus. If you want to be the best in what you are doing, consistent, deep, rejuvenating sleep is also essential to high-energy lifestyle. So there's a lot of elements to this, what we're talking about tonight. Because, it's about our dream and our goal, our idea. These things are all precious. They need all the elements. Everything that we can stick into it, it's needed. And that's where, getting into the eating, the sleeping, all of the things that feed our energy, very, very important. Okay, it appears that whatever we are to achieve anything worthwhile in life, we have to face and pass the persistence test. Okay, so what am I talking about here? This is a test to see just how desirous we are in what we are doing. The test springs upon you most times unexpectedly, and it comes in the form of major setbacks, problems, temporary failures, and sometimes complete disaster in what you are doing. When these things happen, you know that it is testing time, and it is then that you will find out just what you are made of. This is when you show yourself and others just how strong your character is and how true your determination is to succeed. See, there is a time of testing. A time of testing. I used to hate that word. Today, class, we are going to have a test. I said, oh no. Panic. Heart starts to start beating fast. But in life, there's all kinds of tests. And that's where your goal, your dream, whatever it is that you're going after, is going to be tested. That's guaranteed. And that's where a good, strong persistence level that says, Helen, I will not give up. This is it. This is what I'm going to do. I will not give up on doing this. I will be persistent. You can pass the persistence test. Yes, you can. Okay. I have read where Norman Vincent Peale used to say, when God wants to send you a gift, he wraps it up in a problem. What's with that? The bigger the gift that God wants to send, the bigger the problem he wraps it up in. So instead of focusing on the problem, we should be focusing on receiving the gift that is wrapped up in the problem. What we learn from the problem can be the biggest gift that could ever want or need. Continue to see yourself as persistent and never allow yourself to give up. To exercise this on a daily basis, write down daily action plans and make sure that you do what you plan to do. This will be the action that will build persistence and in the end make you unstoppable in all you set out to do. The difference between winners and losers in life is simple. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. And that's just the way it is. That's where we're laying a foundation. We're going to go through a few points right now, and I'm going to try to really focus on some of these areas here and try to get an understanding on this, because this is stuff for some people that they, how would you say, never thought of before, and they wonder why they come up short. There are individuals, and I've talked to hundreds of them, who have had great ideas. And then you see them a month later and they don't even want to look at you because they didn't do what they said they were going to be doing. And there's areas that are lacking. And that's where in the course of these weeks we've been talking about stuff you need to establish in your life. One of the areas is boundless energy and persistence. You need to get yourself in an energized state and be persistent in what you're going after. Because what you do is you cause chemical changes to happen inside you. You create something that can't be stopped. And also you put out a message to everybody around you. I am a persistent individual. What I go and set my heart to do, that is what I do. And what happens a lot of times, people either step aside and let you go through, or they will want to help you in what you're doing because you have a persistence about you. You're not going to quit. You're not going to give up. So the points we want to discuss, the first one is, number one, boundless energy is no accident. No accident. You can choose how much energy you have. You can do things that will give you more energy. To be persistent, you need energy. See, boundless energy is no accident. You choose, and that's what we're going to talk about, some ideas and ways of doing that. But you can choose to live and be energized in life. Some people choose the wrong thing. So I remember, and you probably do too, and this is kind of a sad story, but Lance Armstrong, you know, he won how many Tour de France's? Okay, now he's kind of, you know, all that's been taken away from him because he found a way to energize himself. You know, he found it through chemicals and exchanging of, I guess, blood that was enriched. He would have energy, and he could continue on at a fast pace. You know, and that's where, yeah, he did things wrong. But you know what we're trying to do is what we're going to be looking at here is ways of developing energy in a good way that energize ourselves, that keep us going strong. Because those are the individuals that win races. And we are in that race as we're talking about, called the human race. And each one of us is going after a dream of such that we need the energy and persistence to get this stuff. Okay, number 2 says you need to become highly sensitive to the choices you make regarding your lifestyle. Yeah, we need to be very sensitive to this. Your level of energy equals your level of health. Okay, so your level of energy equals your level of health. Okay, if you are short on energy, you're short on life. You know, and that's true. And that's where, when you are run down and drained, your choices become negatively influenced. Okay, and we talked a little bit about that. When you are run down on energy, you tend to want to find the easiest way, the shortest way, and everything else in life, because you just don't see yourself having the energy to persist and push yourself through. See, and that's where if you find yourself in that area, that's where you need to really take a look at your life and what you're feeding your life, how you're handling your life. Because our bodies were designed to have energy. We were designed to have it. Some people artificially try to fill themselves with energy, but there are things we can do, which we're going to talk about here yet tonight, but we can develop that energy that's going to allow us to push through. Vince Lombardi once said, fatigue makes cowards of all of us. You know, that's where he allowed his football team, they had to condition themselves, you know, and they would work different drills and all this stuff, especially in preseason, to get themselves conditioned. Heat, all these things, cold, all this stuff was no excuse when it came to the game. You had to be conditioned for it. You had to have the energy to play the game. He used to have curfews and all this stuff, times when they had to be in, you know, and they'd check to make sure they're in beds and all that sort of thing, because he knew that if you lose energy, you don't have faith in yourself. You don't have the strength to step out and do the things you need to do to achieve what you want to achieve. Number 3 says a high energy lifestyle requires that you choose a positive mental attitude. We talked about the attitude. Your attitude is the habitual way you think. The quality of your life is dictated by your attitude. The key here is that a good attitude also is no accident. See, and that's where attitudes are everything in what we do. And that's where our whole life, the energy in our life, requires a good attitude. It requires something that will be developed within us so that we can handle all situations. And that's where a good attitude is not an accident. So much in life, when you really think about it, is not an accident. You know, I mean, you look at people that are successful, you look at all this stuff. It's not an accident. It's people who have decided that they're going to find out the principles that need to be followed to achieve these things. Attitude is one of them. Not an accident. People with a good attitude, I realize they're culturing that. Good attitudes change the whole atmosphere in life. You know, and they push us through in areas that are unpushable if you can have a good attitude. We talked last week a little bit about the concentration camps and how this one dad decided to raise his children inside of a concentration camp, and he made a game out of it. He carried a good attitude about circumstances that were happening around him that were horrific. You know, we look at this and it's enough to make us almost get sick to our stomach, but yet he was smart enough to realize that if he could carry a good attitude and teach his children in that way, that they could survive this. And that's the same thing in the projects and areas that we're going after. It's going to take a good attitude. So if you don't have a good attitude today, you can start right now by saying to myself, you know what, I have a good attitude. When I wake up tomorrow, I am going to say to myself, I'm going to say, Don, you have a good attitude about life and about people and about circumstances. I'm not going to allow something of that. I'm just going to realize I need to change my plans once in a while, you know, which life's all about changing plans, but the attitude is going to remain good, because I realize that once my attitude starts to stink, my whole life starts to stink. And there's nothing worse than a stinking life. And that's what a lot of people are stuck in right now, a stinking life, because they don't have the attitude to get out of it. But you can change it. It is not an accident. Okay, moving on here. Okay, number 4, it is important that you decide just how long you plan to live. Oh yeah, we talked about that earlier. Once you set a goal for how long to live, you organize your lifestyle to reach it. Everything in your life is relative to how you think. A good way to help you to reach your goal is to write down what you need to do and what you shouldn't do. That's where we need to develop ourselves a point. How long do you want to live? What do you want to acquire? You know, a lot of us have goals and dreams. You know, are they just for this week, this year, 2 years, 10 years? Or do you have dreams and goals that you want to see that might maybe be 30, 40 years from now? But you know what? You need a life to live some of this stuff. So start telling yourself, I am going to live a long, healthy, energetic life. And mentally, I'm conditioning myself to live that type of life. And I will be sitting there structuring myself and looking at things in a way of what I need to do that. And that's where it's helpful sometimes to take a piece of paper, lay it down, draw a line down the middle of it, right on one side. Things I do need to do to have a long, energetic life. Things that I shouldn't do if I want to live a long, energetic life. You know, and find out just exactly where you sit. You know, a lot of times people are killing themselves from the opportunity of a long, energetic life. And where you can easily start today by telling yourself, you know, I'm going to live to be such and such. And that's where I know I encourage everybody to be able to pick a year of how long they want to live, you know, because it changes the whole perspective of today and what you are doing. Okay, number 5. Number 5, it says to have a maximum levels of energy, you must become an expert when it comes to exercise. You got to be an expert. Study materials that help you know what you need to do. You need to get and stay motivated in this. You can transform your whole body through proper exercise. That's where exercise is a must in a person's life. You know, I can't emphasize this enough. You know, I mean, if we're going to achieve the areas and levels of energy we need to continue to build in our lives. And what happens so many times, they say people quit doing things. They quit exercise, and what happens? The body starts to shut itself down. That's what happens. You know, they say the average man loses like 10 pounds of muscle a decade or something like that. And so I'm looking at 120. You know, if you're going to lose, you know, 10 pounds of muscle, I tell you what, I don't think there'd be much left to me by the time I reach 120. See, so what I need to do is I need to develop muscle and strength and energy within me. And I want to tell you a little story about an individual called John Pascal. This guy here was 72 years of age, and he had cancer. And I'm not sure what type of cancer, but he had cancer. He looked at himself in the mirror, and he looked old, he felt old, and he acted old. And he said, this is disgusting, because he's seen himself fall apart. He's seen himself fall apart. So he, in his mind, he heard about this stuff, about exercise and stuff. So what he did is he started studying this stuff. And at the age of 72, he became a bodybuilder. He had nothing as far as, he never did this stuff before or anything, but he said at 72, I don't know who talked to him, I don't know what he read, but he had the persistence, he had the excitement, he had the compelling to go after this here. And according to his story, which I've read, he, at 72, he went to a gym, he got himself a personal trainer. The personal trainer was taking it very easy on him. And, you know, because he was old. He didn't want to see him getting a heart attack or a stroke or any of these types of things. Took him very easy on him. And not a whole lot was happening. Not a whole lot was happening. So what did he do? He got himself a different trainer. He got a trainer, and he told the trainer, he says, I want to be trained like everybody else. And this trainer treated him just like the young guys. And he took him through everything, and it hurted, you know, and it was hard on him. But in a matter of 3 months, he started seeing great changes happening to his body. He was developing muscle again. He was getting strength. His color was coming back. His cancer went into remission, which he didn't have to deal with anymore. And in the course of 3 years, by the age of 75, he was winning bodybuilding contests. He had put on 34 pounds of muscle, this guy did. And he's writing articles and he said, our society has got it all wrong. Because what we're putting into the minds of people that when you reach a certain age, you can quit doing things because your body is going to start shutting down. You're not going to be able to do things. It's just the opposite. What you need to do is you need to continue to move on. His whole message is what you need to do is take whatever you're doing and do more until you can't do it anymore, and then rest. Your body will automatically condition itself to reach that point where you can't do anymore. And then the next time you do it, you will be able to do more, and you do more. And then you give your body rest, and then your body will condition itself to reach that point. That was his whole goal in life. And that's where he's going around talking with individuals. I don't know where John Pascoe is today, because all this took place back in the, he was born in 1928, you know, and I don't know where he is today. I couldn't find that information, but I did see pictures of him and all that stuff. And for the class, I do have a picture of him at 75, you know, that I brought with me tonight. But it's amazing. But the message is there. The message is there. You know, we need to work on, if we want energy and stuff to do the areas and get involved in the stuff we want to do, we need to develop and go after these things. We can't let our body just fall apart. We need to exercise it and continue to allow it to progress, because it's up to us. And we get maximum levels of energy when we do these types of things. Okay, number 6, the foods you choose to eat each day exert a powerful impact on the level of energy you have. Okay, put yourself in control by taking time to plan your meals. Control the amount of fat and sugar you consume. Eat multiple smaller meals during the day. Drink lots of water. Our body is 2/3 water. Drink lots of water. And we know all this because people have been talking about this, but it really is a big part as far as the energy we have. See, a lot of times people, you know, are addicted to sodas and, you know, fast foods and all this stuff. You know, our body takes its toll. You know, I know my brother one time, he gave plasma. He gave plasma, and he told me the story about the fact that he went out and had himself a big juicy burger and some French fries and all this, and he went and gave plasma. And the lady that was working with him said, "What did you do?" Because in this plasma, it was all milky. You know, and just from the food he ate at lunchtime, and he was given plasma in the afternoon, it was all milky. Because already the blood system was getting itself all kinds of goofy and gunked up with a good old Whopper and French fry. I don't know what it was. But yeah, so it tells you, you know, we don't see what's happening inside of us. You know, and that's where the foods we eat, the stuff we drink, the stuff we put in ourselves. You know, a lot of times we're very shortening of things that we want to do because our body can only process certain amounts of certain things. And that's where to be really effective and powerful in the things we do, our food, our drink, all of that stuff is very, very important, because we got to keep our energy levels up, because we got to be persistent. We got to be persistent in the things we do. Okay, our last point we had for this evening is we sleep for success, and our bodies needs to repair itself and function properly. Yeah, without sufficient sleep, the body is more likely to break down. Sleeping poorly night after night or partial sleep deprivation is a major cause of chronically low energy. Yeah, we need our sleep. And everybody's different on this. You know, I like to say, you know, I know some people can get by on 5 hours of sleep, 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you know, depending on their energy levels and what else they're doing. You know, they don't need a whole lot of sleep. But some people need 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep. Some people 10 hours of sleep, because we need to replenish. We need to reach certain levels of sleep too, because we have to replenish things. We need to develop energy in our life, and it's a matter of what we do and how we do it. And it's interesting too sometimes, because I remember, in fact, I got a son right now. He's got a little newborn, you know, and he's got this child on a schedule. You know, and there's certain things that he doesn't do because it's time for the baby to sleep. You know, and while the baby goes in stays on schedule, the baby does well. As soon as he gets off schedule, he's got a crabby baby, you know, and things are not so well. So you make sure he stays on schedule. See, a lot, I think, in our life too, sometimes can be done if we can set up ourselves good schedules. You know, there's a time for sleep and the conditions around that we need to sleep. You know, a lot of times what people will do, they'll try to short themselves in some of these areas and never really get the deep sleep that they need. And all of a sudden, they feel like there isn't a whole lot of energy. And I know what that's like. Because I know nights, you know, where I'm sitting up watching the Packer football game and I'm getting to bed at 11 o'clock and dragging myself out of bed at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, and I'm sitting there the whole day. I'm numb. It seems like my mind doesn't think the way it should. My body doesn't want to function the way it should. And I just can't wait for the next night to come so I can crawl back in bed and get some sleep and try to catch up on things. But sleep is an important thing. And that's too, you know, lining up with certain things. It's amazing. I don't know if you've ever done this, but Shirley and I have. We've taken a trip. We went to Europe one time, and it was like a 9-hour flight flying over to Europe. And we got over, it was Ireland. We got over to Ireland about 10 o'clock in the morning, and which was you backing that thing off. You know, we missed like a night's sleep there on the plane. And so what we do, we get to the hotel and we say, you know what? I think we're going to go take a little nap here, because what's a little nap going to hurt? You know, so what we did is we went and laid down and probably slept for a couple hours, and our minds were just like mush. And then we go out and stuff, and we felt kind of tired and just dead because the energy level wasn't there. And then it came nighttime, and we couldn't sleep because we had our whole schedule all messed up. You know, so we're sitting there. It took us about 3 days to get ourselves through that, where we had the energy just to change our schedule. We didn't know that you don't go to sleep. You allow yourself to be overslept, so you get yourself on their schedule, and now we know that, so we don't do that anymore. But boy, I tell you what, for a couple of days here, we were pretty dead meat walking around there trying to enjoy Ireland. It felt like we just hadn't slept for a day or two. So, you know, sleep is an important thing. And a lot of times people get used to not having enough, you know, and it becomes a feeling. Because it's the same thing in all areas of life. You get used to your life. You really do. You're used to your life. You've lived it for how many years? Is it right? Is it wrong? You know, are you achieving what you want to achieve, or are you not achieving? And that's where they say insanity is expecting change and not changing anything. You know, and doing the same old thing and expecting change. See, if you really want change in your life, you have to look at all areas of your life. And that's where in these course of these weeks, we've talked about that. You know, you've got to look at how you're thinking, what you're saying, how you see things. And today we're talking about your energy level and your persistence. Because you got to develop something. You got to become strong. Every one of us does in his own way and own fashion. We need to take charge of our own life and be able to live life to its fullest, doing things the way they need to be done. And then I'm just going to touch on our assignments for next week. Okay, number one is set a goal for how long you want to live healthfully and productively. Write down your age and the year. So, yeah, if you can do that, we're encouraging everybody, because just to walk this practice through. Okay, number two, make a list of all the lifestyle choices needed for living productively and healthfully until the age that you set for a goal. So, okay, as we talked about, what do you need to do, you know, to be healthy up until that time? Okay, number three, write a list of all the choices that are not consistent with living your lifespan goal. Okay, areas in your life that really don't fit. You know, maybe I'm doing something, maybe I'm chewing tobacco, and I don't know if anybody is or whatever, and I'm not saying condemning anybody for anything, but maybe I'm chewing tobacco. Well, that probably isn't something that's good to reach certain ages of life. Okay, number four, write on a piece of paper, my daily choices create a high energy lifestyle and a perfect health. Okay, writing on a piece of paper, my daily choices create a high energy lifestyle and a perfect health. See, what I want you to do is making affirmations, making things in your life that are constantly being programmed into your mind, that the choices you are making need to be good choices if we're going to have a high energy, persistent lifestyle, because we never give up. And I know that's where Winston Churchill one time had mentioned the fact that in a speech that he had given at a commencement address, and it was one of the shortest speeches that was ever given, and a lot of you probably know that, but it was probably one of the best speeches they ever heard. And he got up in front of them, and that's all he said to them is never, 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 never give up. And that's what persistence in a high energy lifestyle will give you. And I want to thank all of you for a wonderful night and for your great attention. I hope all you at home are following along with us and achieving the same things we are. And I want to wish you all a great week, and I will see you all again for the celebration next week. Thank you so much.